Hello and welcome to Don't Bury the Lead. We recap WWE Smackdown every Friday night after the bell. Doing a special episode today on Sunday as we weren't able to do it live on Friday. I'm joined by Dom Scarcella. Dom, go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
We've had a little extra time, a little more than usual to digest the SmackDown from April 21st, 2023. But I don't think my impressions of the show have changed much in the day and a half, almost 2 days here. So I think it's going to be like having a fresh take on everything as well. Really interesting show. A lot of stuff to talk about. We got 5 matches, one of which is already in the title of this live stream. So without further ado, John, don't bury the lead. What's the biggest story that we want to talk about coming out of this episode of SmackDown?
Dom, you don't ever want to bury the lead. And let me tell you, the lead is the main event, as always, is our lead. Solo Sikoa goes over Matt Riddle for the second week in a row in about 20 minutes in a no DQ match.
Yes.
So we had a no DQ main event. Solo Sikoa goes over Matt Riddle. Dom, what did you think of this match?
Well, don't bury the lead. There were 5 matches on this show. This may have been the worst.
Yeah.
But it's the biggest storyline. It's a push for Solo Sikoa, but it's also really a push for Matt Riddle. He's out there by himself. There's no Sami Zayn. There's no Kevin Owens. On the other hand, for Solo Sikoa, there is Jay and Jimmy Uso, who wind up interfering in order to help Solo win this. Solo does do sort of a variation of his Samoan spike to get the victory here. He misses the spike. Matt Riddle counters with a high knee, and then Matt hits the ropes, and Solo hits him with a sort of Samoan spike clothesline for the pinfall. So Solo changing up a bit how he finishes off competitors. There's also Solo Sikoa jawing more at his opponent during the match, and not just yelling. But we saw the previous week Solo actually cutting a promo in a backstage setting. Now he's jawing, and you can hear him on the hot mics with the mobile cameras around the ring. He's jawing at Matt Riddle. He's not just yelling at him. He's like talking trash to him. So we're seeing that part of Solo, but ultimately Matt Riddle's out there by himself. This is classic babyface stuff, right? I mean, the babyface is outnumbered. The heels are winning dirty. It's a push for Solo Sikoa, but it's a push for Matt Riddle.
Yeah.
Were we expecting this out of Matt Riddle? I mean, we expected a push for Solo eventually, and it's great that they're giving him space. Roman Reigns is taking some time off after WrestleMania. So even though he's still got the belt, Roman has been off TV for a few weeks. The Uso brothers now no longer have their tag team titles. So there's space now for Solo to step into it. That's really important. The Usos recede a little bit. Roman's off TV. Solo gets to ascend as far as camera time, being in big matches. He's getting that push. But what do we think also about what's happening with Matt Riddle here? He came out of nowhere. He's in the number one storyline in the company.
Yeah, right from rehab to getting it in the main events of back-to-back SmackDown. So
yeah,
good for him. I mean, maybe everybody else should be doing that. Everybody else should be taking some time for themselves, their mental health.
Sure.
And coming back and getting big pushes. Yeah, for sure. I didn't expect Matt Riddle. You figured he'd probably be in the mid card, but I didn't see him. And Solo is kind of escalated above that at this point. I don't think he would be considered a typical mid carder because he is undefeated except for losing to Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
And he's in the biggest story. He's been involved in the main event of WrestleMania, interfering. So my takeaways here. I think they're really going to push Solo at some point, and it looks like
Mhm.
they were going to anyway. And I think he's really stepped up to the plate so far. Like in the main events, he looks like he fits. Um, he's got his own little entrance. He has the Uso brothers introducing him as the singles guy.
Mhm.
He's doing Samoa Joe, but not a bad guy to rip off. He's got the towel. He's got the fight shorts. He's got the unique body that you wouldn't think that would get pushed in WWE. He's big and strong, like, but it looks like he throws back a couple beers. You know, he can throw back a couple beers. He's eating some cheesesteaks, some cheeseburgers. Like he's bigger, you know, which is not something you usually see in WWE. Really willingly pushing guys like that. But
But classic Samoan, athlete fighter kind of thing. He
mm,
low center of gravity, so big guys, but mobile,
mhm.
very mobile. He's not a guy who lumbers around the ring. Very athletic. He also does not wait. He tapes his ankles and his feet, but doesn't wear the big wrestling boots. Sort of like Matt Riddle, but Matt Riddle doesn't even tape the ankles or the feet.
Yeah,
Matt Riddle looks like he's out there like he forgot stuff. Samoa Joe looks like it's part of his attire. He's that martial artist who strikes with the feet as well as the hands.
yeah. On to Riddle too. I thought so. He does really cool throws, which I just love throws because he's got that wrestling background and he's got that
Mhm.
MMA background. He was a really good fighter in the UFC. Um, he was 5-0 before he failed too many drug tests for marijuana, and they booted him
Mhm.
out of the UFC. So he was really good in the UFC. He does really good throws. The only thing I would say is he had two little slip ups during the match. Like
Okay.
one was he's got this ridiculous jacket he comes out in because he's still kind of doing a comedy gimmick, but the
Yeah.
jacket kind of stuck on, and then like Sikoa's beat him up, and it's like kind of stuck, and he like pulls it off as he's getting punched. So it's like, would you be really pulling the jacket off? I know that's kind of nitpicking, but he takes the jacket off weird, oddly in the beginning of the match, and then they had a big spot toward the middle of the match when they threw all the chairs, all the kendo sticks into the ring, and Solo Sikoa was supposed to slowly enter in the ring and grab the chair, and Riddle was supposed to just step on the chair, or stop him from getting the chair. But
Okay.
this was really awkwardly done. It was like Riddle got up too fast, and Samoa, and he was just kind of standing there, and then Sikoa kind of grabs the chair and then he steps on it. But he did it. I guess the way they were supposed to do it was Riddle was supposed to be like dazed and then stops him from getting the chair, and then that would have been the reason that Solo moved so slowly to the chair. But really, kind of an awkward way that they got to that spot. So that was
Maybe too cute. Maybe they got a little too cute there
yeah. They
with it.
tried to do the
This
action.
is a no DQ match. They went for the weapons within 2 minutes into the match.
Yeah,
There was no they
Riddle.
weren't you're going to slow play this hand. It was kendo sticks and chairs very quickly. The crowd to me though seemed unimpressed until Matt Riddle went for a table.
Yeah,
And then Solo blocked him from using it, and they just continued to fight with kendo sticks and then eventually chairs. Matt does hit the swanton dive out of the ring to go to the first commercial. There's your standard. How do we get to commercial? But I don't know. It was there was more there was more sizzle than steak in this match.
that's a
It
great word
it
for
it,
it.
it was the big storyline. It was guys who were getting pushes, but the match itself was it's like they're trying to get to Backlash when they seem to be promoting this is going to be a 6-man tag at the Backlash pay-per-view first weekend in May. And it's like, okay, well, what do we do in the increments up there? And now it's a no DQ. of
Which
the
is
same match
weird.
we saw last time.
Which is weird
And
that it was the same exact match back to back in the main event, and last week's didn't really want me wanting to see that again. Then
yeah,
they add the no DQ, and I was like, well, this match is actually worse than the first one. So I don't think you really got to where you needed to be. And even to your point, if we're going to talk about it, when you have a no DQ match and we're going to use the weapons, those should be kind of crazy when you use a weapon. But they just go right to the weapons and they throw 3 chairs and all these kendo sticks from the bottom and they
yeah.
start going in right away with the weapons. I was like, all right, so we're not even going to build up to it.
Well, the other thing about a no DQ match is the purpose for having a no disqualification match is because somebody previously got disqualified. But I don't think anybody's getting DQ'd in these matchups. I mean, there's interference, but if the goal is to stop the interference, then you would do the opposite of having a no DQ match.
A random stipulation, like,
So
okay,
I don't get this. I'm glad that Solo's getting more screen time and that they're trying something with Matt Riddle. And I mean, eventually Matt's going to have to go. I mean, to me, it seems like he's got to go the Sami Zayn route, where he's got to somehow distance himself from the comedy spots and be more of the tough guy. Because, like you're saying, he's seriously a good grappler, wrestler, MMA, really athletic. He doesn't need the comedy thing to hide the fact that he's a bad wrestler. He's not a bad wrestler.
no.
He can do this. So I wonder if maybe Matt Riddle gets away from doing so much of the bro stuff, and just becomes more of a tough guy grappler, mixed martial artist. Um,
That would
we'll
be
see.
our hope. I mean, definitely my hope for sure,
Okay.
because he is trapped in the stoner thing, which is kind of, like, hey, we are close to 420. We are
Yeah.
a couple days after 420. We're 420 friendly show, but it is a little cringy sometimes, some of the stuff he's doing. And then also he just came back from rehab. So can we just drop that maybe too? I don't know. Maybe what a good reason to drop that gimmick. We don't have to highlight it.
Wouldn't that have been the perfect thing to do? Right?
Let's drop the bro gimmick, and you have he went to he went to rehab. So why don't we not stop highlighting his drug abuse and highlight some of the positives for him, and then you can get behind the baby face. But
Sure.
who are we, right?
Just a couple of commentators,
We're just
enjoying the WWE product. Not much else to say about this match other than for a main event and for the biggest storyline, it seemed like filler.
no, yeah, for sure.
Didn't do anything for either guy that we hadn't already seen. Um, it was it went on last. It was the biggest storyline, but it was in many ways the least impressive match on the card because this was a pretty good SmackDown in the ring. Unless you have something more you want to say about this main event match here, where do you want to go next in this SmackDown?
This was almost the lead. I almost pulled the plug, or I almost pulled the trigger. I always find myself just using the main event and then kicking myself later, being like, I should have just talked about this right away. But Gunther versus Xavier Woods was
Mhm.
very good for a TV
Right?
match.
Yeah.
For a cable TV match, I really like this one. Gunther goes over Xavier Woods via submission. He goes
Hmm.
clean over Xavier Woods, but both guys really impressive. Gunther as always, but Xavier Woods too, coming out a little bit more serious than usual.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe they're listening to us when we're like, boom, boom, the comedy, the video games. He came out and instead of he kind of does it like a different look because he's got the cornrows in. He's looking and he's like kind of hunched over, like he's got his fists up and ready to go and warming up and ready
Mhm.
to fight. I'm like, okay, he's looking like somebody that actually is going to wrestle a wrestling match, not just in a trombone comedy gimmick, So
And we talked about Solo getting more time with Roman being off TV and the Usos receding a bit without the belts. Um, Xavier Woods may be a blessing in disguise, or making the most of a rough situation with Kofi Kingston having to rehab his ankle that he hurt on that silly dive a month or so ago, where he was one of the guys catching the diver. And with Big E still being out, yeah, a chance for Xavier Woods to show some stuff. There's, I guess, it's a fine line to walk between having a guy have a personality, but not wanting, especially if he's good in the ring, not wanting him to be hiding behind the personality to the extent where, he's only having comedy matches, or he's just someone's sidekick. Uh,
right.
Good for Xavier Woods. Got the personality, got the flamboyance, but now out there by himself without too much gimmick, he is a good wrestler. And what did you think of how they set up this match psychologically? This is Gunther almost taking Xavier Woods too lightly. I mean, that was kind of the gist of this match. Is like Gunther's like, you don't belong in this ring. At some point, he even mouths to him, and you can hear him on the camera. Gunther says, "Who are you? You're a disgrace. Get out of my ring." And then, Xavier Woods responds by slapping him, and then he gets a little flurry of offense. And then, we get a really competitive match, really, for the second half of it. There's you mentioned already that Gunther eventually gets the sleeper, but it comes out of a few near falls for Xavier Woods. In fact, the way they get into the sleeper finally is that Gunther kicks out of a pin at 2.5, and then with both men on the canvas, Gunther just realizes, hey, he's right here, and just without even getting up, cinches in the sleeper while they're both prone on the mat.
Yeah. That was the finish was awesome. And by awesome, I mean, you never know when the matches are going to finish with Gunther, because he doesn't have that signature finish.
Yep.
This is another example. And man, he is rough. He rips him up off the mat and he's got it in, and then Woods is kind of shaken out of it, and he picks him up aggressively and slams him down, just stiff as can be, and then chokes him out. And you're like, man, that looked violent. And stuff like, he just makes stuff look so much more violent. And I don't know how he's doing it and being safe, but he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a great finish. And there was a couple other spots that I wanted to call out.
Oh yeah, go for it.
So the finish was really cool. You never know what's coming with Gunther ever. And it adds that level of like, is this match going to end or not? Is he going to lose or not? I mean, and then, so there was a dive on Xavier Woods that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate most dives, but this one I actually liked. It was somewhere between the middle or toward the end of the match. Like in the second half, we got a dive. We don't get one right away, but he does the dive, and the way Gunther takes the dive instead of the catch, which is so ridiculous. The guys do the dive, and then the guy catches him, makes sure he's okay, and then they go down together, and you're like, oh great, you caught him. But Gunther he flips over the top rope, and Gunther just kind of goes forward with it, like almost like he booted him in the back of the head, and crunches forward. And I never saw anybody take the bump like that, where you can tell he's still helping him land, but he's acting like he's being hit, like with his foot as he goes over, and Gunther just goes over. I'm like, wow, that was the perfect way to take that move. Which, two things. I mean, one of the things about pro wrestling, you could do great moves, but you really got to be able to sell as well and take the moves. And I think Gunther did a great job there.
I think he did a great job, and I think they were setting up the dive very well.
Yeah.
Let's see. Gunther had rolled to the out. This is right after the "You're a disgrace, get out of my ring," and Xavier Woods gets in a flurry of offense. Gunther rolls to the outside. Woods does the drop kick through the ropes on Gunther, and then Woods stays in the ring. Gunther staggers to an adjacent side of the ring, and that's when Woods goes for the dive. So that was another variation on it. And then I don't think they went to commercial. So it was great. It was like, just continue the match. This is not a signal to go to commercial. This is just part of the match. Um, Xavier Woods winds up getting hitting a top turn leg drop for a 2.5 count. Um, the first time Gunther went for the sleeper was out of Woods going for a fireman's carry attempt and Gunther countering into the sleeper, but Woods fights out of it, winds up getting a couple of more 2 counts before the finish there. So, the story of this match is Gunther taking Xavier Woods lightly, but in the end, mauling him at the finish. But Xavier Woods, look, Gunther has been so dominant that he has to win some matches sort of handily. Every match can't be like 51-49.
Yeah.
Because it's Gunther. He's supposed to be this generationally great champion.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got to come up with ways for the other guy not to look like trash. And in this one, it was that Gunther was just taking him a little lightly and trying to teach him a lesson. And it winds up being, well, Xavier Woods, that grittiness, that perseverance, gets in a few of his own shots. And then at the end, Gunther has to dial it up in order to get the win here. And I think both guys wind up looking really good. Xavier Woods, this is the best I've ever seen him look. He looks better here than he ever has in New Day.
Mm-hmm.
Just him on his own as an athlete, he can go. He's a little on the small side, but I mean, so's Ricochet. Ricochet has made quite a career for himself. He's definitely belongs on the SmackDown roster. Maybe Xavier Woods can escape from New Day, especially with the draft coming up. Maybe he won't be in the New Day anymore. Maybe they won't be on the same program. Maybe they're trying to test the waters for who has the ability to take on a different storyline. And maybe that's Xavier Woods. I love the non-heel tactics of Gunther as well. He wins without cheating. In fact, knowing that Xavier Woods is out there all by himself, he sends Kaiser and Vinci to the back at the beginning of the match, just so he doesn't have a numbers advantage. So there's this real sense that Gunther wrestles like a babyface, except for the fact that he looks down upon people and he's condescending and he scowls all the time. So it's neat though. I mean, is it wrong that I cheer when Gunther is on my TV set?
That is the one thing I've been thinking about him, because he is wrestling the best matches consistently, and the things he stands for is that he likes wrestling, and everybody's disgracing it. It's like, well, yeah, you're kind of right. And when are people just going to start? He'll holistically become a face because people like him.
They liked him at WrestleMania. His finish got a huge pop. Now, part of it was that all 3 guys in that WrestleMania triple threat were working very stiff, and they were evenly matched from a size standpoint. It looked great. But when Gunther wins, the crowd is not disappointed, booing the heel or whatever. I mean, the people in attendance at a pay-per-view, they probably tend to be the more hardcore fans. Yeah, Gunther is over as a babyface almost with a lot of the hardcore wrestling fans. And while you can say, well, the WWE audience is bigger than that, in your live arena, especially close to the ring, it's probably overrepresented with wrestling fans. And so you get this weird crowd pop in the live arena for Gunther.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind, but it is a little weird because of where they're trying to go storyline wise. But I'm always entertained by Gunther, especially now they're letting him do stuff on the mic.
Oh yeah. And he can handle his own on the mic. He's not The Rock. He's not Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's not Ric Flair. But he's getting there. And if it's anything like his in-ring work, which is so polished, it's unbelievable, there's no reason to think that he won't get to a point where he can be a pretty good talker. So,
and the way he talks fits his wrestling style. I mean, if his whole idea is that he's tired of people disrespecting the pro wrestling business, then he shouldn't be out there, with the Rock and the eyebrow, calling people's candy asses and playing his guitar for the SmackDown hotel. And, he shouldn't be Ric Flair towards the end there, just wooing all over the place and elbow dropping his own jacket and his own shoes and, going a little too far. I mean, Gunther's mic work fits his character. I don't think he should change it. I think he should just get more of an opportunity to show it.
Yes. As much as I did love Ric Flair elbow dropping his jacket and stripping down and dancing around like a maniac in WCW, I don't even know what that was supposed to be. I don't know, like why. I don't know what it was, but yeah, I liked that stuff back in the day. For some reason, I was like,
Or a different character for the Nature Boy. Yeah, okay, it fits. He's a little crazy, but no, for Gunther, character. We don't like guys to be cookie cutter and vanilla. And so we don't like it in the ring. We also don't like it for their personalities, and those things have to match. So I'm glad that they're doing it the way we just talked about Solo Sikoa. I'm glad that Solo is kind of developing on the mic and verbally the way you would expect a guy who's this just street fighter enforcer of a faction to do it. We're wondering if Matt Riddle is going to make that change for him. With Xavier Woods, we're wondering if he has it in him to step away from, the best played lousy trombone player in the world to a guy who's, a formidable competitor in the ring as a wrestler. So neat things to see. This is the go home SmackDown before the WWE draft. So that's going to be interesting to cover. And so we're getting a lot of wrestlers showcasing what they can do as individuals.
yeah,
Guys who are traditionally part of factions, maybe getting a chance to showcase what they can do away from that extra context.
yeah, for sure. Well, anything else to say about which it probably could have been the match of the night, Xavier Woods versus Gunther?
Not much more about this. Where do you want to go next? We've done the two matches that were entirely in the second hour, but the first hour and even that overlap across the hour change, that 9 o'clock timestamp, we got good stuff. We got and they were all tag matches as well. So where do you want to go next here?
What about? And I think they've been building to this for a couple weeks, which are finally like they're not just randomly doing matches, but they built to this one. It's Ricochet and Braun Strowman versus the Viking Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of this match?
I like that they're showcasing the tag team division. These were two of the four teams in the men's tag team showcase at WrestleMania. And they're also tag teams. The Viking Raiders are a tag team. They're not two guys who were just thrown together. And while Ricochet and Braun Strowman were at one time two guys who were just thrown together, they've become a tag team. I like this. Ricochet and Braun Strowman get the win. Braun Strowman fights through a double team and hot tags Ricochet. And then Ricochet winds up hitting a swanton off of Braun's shoulders to pin Ivar. So they're using the odd couple nature of Braun Strowman and Ricochet to their advantage. It becomes this neat thing where Braun Strowman tosses Ricochet onto people to give him extra height, extra leverage. Ricochet stands on Braun's shoulders because that's higher than the top turnbuckle, if you can believe it. So it's some neat stuff here. I like the match. At some point, I wonder what they're going to do with the Viking Raiders because, like with the main event, this is something we've kind of seen before, and eventually the Viking Raiders got to go over somebody other than I don't know who they've gone over on. Legado del Fantasma, did they go over Hit Row? I mean, eventually I want to see if the Viking Raiders can get a win somewhere, but it seems like they're kind of slow playing the tag team division while showing us that it's real, because they need to have the rematch of WrestleMania coming up again at the next SmackDown, the Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. So they still need to do that rematch. And then Backlash is already spoken for, that whichever one wins next week is going to be in a 6-man at Backlash. So they've got to slow play the re-emergence of the tag team division.
Yeah.
At the same time, they want to keep it fresh in our minds as viewers who the best workers in the tag team division are. And I think Ricochet and Braun Strowman and the Viking Raiders for the SmackDown brand have been very good over the last few months. I like this. What say you, my friend?
Yeah, I agree with your assessment for sure. And I also wanted to say, Braun Strowman and Ricochet, it's good to kind of see them find their way. I don't know if it's a happy accident here that they're both bald, but they're both bald guys, and one is a giant and one super athletic. It's weird that who did this seems so natural. The way that they've come together as a tag team.
Yeah.
They both have completely different styles, so when they tag out, they can do their style,
Yep.
tag in and out. And then the Viking Raiders, they might be just a team that's a good bottom card. Well, let's call them plausible, like real good workers that could be in there, and they can have a match with anybody, and it's solid. Like
Mhm.
they're not they're doing okay. They're okay, which is okay. It's okay to be okay. They're just an average team that comes in there, and they can put some other teams over, like Ricochet and Braun Strowman, and then you can kind of have those guys get escalated, and then when there's a title match, you're like, they've been doing pretty good, for they could win a tag team title.
If there was ever a SmackDown where it's okay to be okay, this SmackDown is it, because there was no weak match. And the way you get a SmackDown with 5 at least pretty good matches is you make sure that everybody is at least okay and solid in the ring, like you're describing the Viking Raiders. They have a neat gimmick.
Mhm.
It's a little cartoonish, but it's cartoonish in like they're cartoon fighters, not cartoon trombone players. You
They
know,
might it might be a
they're
little bit
cartoon Vikings. Vikings are big, rough and tumble guys.
it might
So
be a little bit like the Legion of Doom when they had
yeah,
the shoulder pads and the face paint and all that
yep.
stuff, where you were like, okay, they are people from Mad Max, or and that was sort of what they were doing, but they're pretty good in the ring, and you're like, okay, there's something, they're doing something. The gimmick's okay.
Yeah, it works. It works for me. You were mentioning that Braun and Ricochet, they have different styles of wrestling, obviously different body types. They're also not getting formulaic though. Like there are
Mm,
sometimes hot tags to Braun Strowman, but there are also hot tags to Ricochet. So it's not so, oh, let's just recycle the same match script where Ricochet gets beat down and has to make the hot tag, or Braun Strowman gets beat down and has to make the hot. It could be either guy getting the hot tag, giving the hot tag. It could be either guy taking punishment or giving punishment. It could be either guy setting up a finish. Uh, it's it's not quite Gunther level where you don't know what's going to happen, and so you have to watch everything. But these guys are entertaining, and it's not getting 5 moves of Doomy even when they win.
mhm.
Like they kind of win different ways, and I do like it. Braun Strowman goes for a drop kick at one point after commercial here. All right, big man. Show us a little more there. Stretch it out. I like it. Hey, if Ricochet can grapple and do side headlocks, then maybe Braun Strowman can hit like a drop kick into the chest there. Why not? Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Fairly well executed, and he did it on another big man where, maybe he could work it a little stiff and wasn't going to break poor Eric in half. But hey, it works. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Dom, as we go through the SmackDown recap here, what's the next match you want to talk about?
I want to talk about Ricochet and Braun Strowman, but as the other gender. It's
Uh,
It's Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez.
I didn't
Are
even
you
think about
getting
that.
that vibe out of them?
One is a monster, one is tiny and athletic. Yes. Wow, I
And the
didn't.
fact that they each had single success and they just kind of seem thrown together as a tag team. But
Mm,
now it's turning into maybe they could get some chemistry here and be a tag team. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez defeat Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green, who frankly are working very well as a heel tag team. They're another pair that looks like they were just kind of thrown together very quickly right before WrestleMania. But Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green, they have something going with each other. I like it. And they're very good heels. Um, Liv winds up pinning Chelsea Green after dumping Chelsea's water bottle on her. They had teased that, Chelsea threw water on Liv last week after their victory as Liv and Raquel were watching from ringside and squirted her with the water bottle again today. So, kind of at the end, little comedy spot going on. Liv grabs Chelsea's water bottle, dumps it on her to, just infuriate her, and then winds up rolling her up. And with Raquel outside, out of the view of the ref, putting the boot there up against Liv's backside so that Chelsea couldn't roll out of it and turn it.
I like the finish. Yeah, I
Yeah, right.
haven't seen that.
Neat little finish.
Yeah, I haven't seen that before. Um, so I like that. Anything I just haven't seen, I'm like, okay, that was pretty creative. And the one, so that's a thumbs up, but then I do have to give a thumbs down.
Okay.
Chelsea Green, not so hot in the ring. Some of the stuff
Of
she,
these four, yeah, she's number 4 out of 4, but the other 3 are above average.
yeah, definitely Raquel Rodriguez, who really has gotten a lot better. I From my first time I saw her, I was like, this is weird. But she was in a weird weapons match, and you could just see she was out of her space there. She didn't know
Mm.
what the hell was going on. But you put her in a regular wrestling match, and she's been good. So she did a good job in the. I mean, Raquel's done pretty good for me the last couple months now.
Yep.
And Liv Morgan, who I accidentally called Alexa Bliss, I mixed them up. I'm sorry. On our some of our posts on other websites. Um, so yeah, so it's Liv Morgan, not Alexa Bliss. She's done good, and then Sonya Deville has been pretty solid. Like, kind of, I don't want to say, sort of surprising because she was doing like the GM role. So I figured in her GM role, oh, she couldn't wrestle, so they made her the GM or whatever.
Mm.
And it turns out, yeah, she's pretty solid in there.
She
So
is solid in the ring. She's excellent on the mic. It's probably why she worked as a GM.
mhm.
But she's fantastic on the mic. She's very good at instigating. She did that to Charlotte Flair when Charlotte first came back with this most recent run and surprised Ronda Rousey to take the belt from her. It was Sonya Deville who they sent out there to antagonize and instigate and to let Charlotte work off some of that ring rust for a couple of weeks in a row. So Sonya's very valuable. And she's the kind of person who keeps her heat even if she doesn't win matches.
Yeah.
Uh,
One
Very
note about
valuable to have that kind of person.
one note about this match, not to nitpick, but
Go for it. Nitpick.
Liv Morgan hit a drop kick, and it should have been really good up against Chelsea Green, and she comes flying at her and whacks her with the drop kick, and Chelsea, instead of like whipping back and doing a really strong back bump to kind of emphasize it, she just kind of like fell over awkwardly onto her side, and it was just like, we need you to kind of make, when she makes that impact, you got to sell for her. But
Yeah.
instead, she just kind of like fell over, and it just made it, I was just like, you got to, that's kind of like some day one shit, you know? So you got to be able to take a back bump and sell a little bit better for your big champion babyface is coming and drop kicking you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, next time you might just have to stiff her. I don't know, but
And it's basic physics, right? That you know just implicitly. Like if you get hit from this angle, then the force is going that direction. You should go that way.
yeah, right. And instead,
That's
she kind of just like it might have been a miscommunication where she didn't know the drop kick was coming, and she
sure.
whacked her with the drop kick, and then she just like fell over like a, just tumbled over. But hey, maybe it's a one-off move or a one-off match, and I might see her in a singles match, and she might tear it up. I said that about Raquel Rodriguez several months ago. I critiqued her, and then she ended up being really good. She had a great match with Ronda Rousey, so maybe I'm the lucky charm where I'll trash their work and they get really better. I don't know.
Well, and it's trying to elevate the women's tag team division as well. And these two teams that have been thrown together fairly recently, they're doing a good job of showcasing tag team wrestling. They
Mhm.
do double teams. They do combinations. They quick tags in and out, isolating your opponent in a corner if you have to. Some of the psychology of hot tags and things. Sonya and Chelsea hit a big double vertical suplex on Liv Morgan. They go for it a little bit later, but this time Liv blocks it and turns it into a double neck breaker counter and then gets the hot tag to Raquel. Like that's good tag team wrestling. That's what you expect to see in a tag team match where they're wrestling like it's a tag team,
Yeah.
not just like four people in there, two of whom happen to be, allied for those 10 minutes. It's good
And
tag team wrestling.
we've seen some tag stuff like that in the women's division
Mm-hmm.
where they don't seem like cohesive teams. And it just seems like four singles competitors and they're randomly tagging in.
Yep.
So, a great formula is getting double team moves for victories as tag teams. And they did that tonight. So,
They did
yeah.
that tonight. Yep.
So,
And how about psychology wise? So I don't want to lose this. Is 2 weeks ago, wondering if they're making Liv Morgan too vanilla with the whole babyface tag teams thing.
mhm,
This week, I think they're watching us.
I know.
John, they're watching Don't Bury the Lead, and they're like, uh-oh.
I did notice her gear. Yes.
Her gear is back and her personality's back. They had her backstage, her and Raquel doing a little interview just before they went for their ring entrance. And it looks like, Liv is back to being this a little bit of a loose cannon, and that Raquel, her big sister, has to kind of like calm down, Liv. We got to keep this, we got to keep it in control if we're going to win the match. So it might be that Raquel has to keep an eye on Liv Morgan here. That could be an interesting dynamic for a tag team, and could also speak to the fact that they have a chemistry together. And we saw that today. Liv Morgan doing another thing. They they played it up early that she took a huge back bump and that her back was hurting. She's selling it the rest of the match.
Yeah.
There's a couple times where she'd hit a move and she'd be slow to get up and she'd be like reaching her arm around towards her back.
Mm-hmm.
So selling the back, little things like that, I enjoy in a match.
No,
It's like, sure. So the thing that happened a minute ago still matters a minute later? Really? Wow. What a concept. I like that stuff. And when wrestlers do that, it tells me, okay, this is not just someone who went to acrobat school and learned how to take a back bump and who says, okay, I'm a wrestler now. That tells me this is someone who gets pro wrestling. And I like to see that, especially if a team's going to be elevated. They put belts on them. They expect something out of them. Yeah, put belts on the people who get pro wrestling.
And I love when they sell the back and they continue to sell it because, everybody that watches knows, hey, this is scripted. So it's known, right? This
Yes.
is a known thing. So ways they can kind of trick you is, are they really hurt or not? Like Shane McMahon really got hurt. I mean, he was really either selling that amazingly
Yes.
on WrestleMania when he blew his quad out, or oh man, he actually got hurt. So if they're good enough at selling to the point where it's like, wow, it looks like he's really hurt, like he really dinged that up his knee, um, then that's an aspect of wrestling I like. When you're not sure, it blurs what's reality and what's not. So,
Mhm.
um, anything
And
else?
it just makes sense story-wise. You're telling a story in the ring, it makes sense.
Yeah. So, anything else you wanted to talk about with this match here, Tom?
It's a successful first title defense, I think they were saying, for Raquel and Liv. Be interesting to see. I mean, eventually they're going to throw them in there with Ronda and Shayna, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
and what happens then? Because Liv and Raquel, they can work. And is a match like that going to be hamstrung by Ronda's perhaps lack of interest or genuine inability to work? I understand that they want this to happen, classic heel street fighters, shoot fighters. But I don't know. I mean, I hope the women's tag division has more to it than just, well, eventually you get fed to Ronda and Shayna.
Yeah, and we haven't seen Ronda Rousey since WrestleMania, right?
Yeah, she was the legal competitor in the ring for what, like 15 seconds?
Yeah, I think yeah, she's got a sweet contract and a sweet schedule, whatever it is. 'Cause
Hmm.
she's been gone for a while. And who knows what I mean, who knows what her status is with the company, or
Yep.
I mean, maybe now that the UFC and WWE are essentially merging with Endeavor,
Yeah.
they might look at her and be like, "Oh yeah, she's great. Keep pushing her." It's going to be like, "Oh no." But we'll have to see there.
Yeah.
Um, what anything else? I was to say, what's the next match or segment that you would like to talk about here?
Because there were five pretty good non-squash matches, there wasn't a lot of backstage vignettes. There wasn't a lot of backstage interviews or stuff happening there, and there were no squashes. We've got one more match, which was the opener, and then just a few other things to talk about. But we can go match first. Damian Priest and Finn Balor versus Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar. Um, Damian Priest wins it for his team with the South of Heaven choke slam. That combination, it's a choke slam, but he also sits down with it
Mhm.
um, onto Santos Escobar. And the setup for that was that Santos splashes Finn Balor, but doesn't know that Balor isn't the legal competitor for his team because Priest had made a blind tag. Um, and then so it's kind of a surprise as Priest gets into the ring, and now Damian's got Santos Escobar up for this big finisher. But they get the win there. Um, Decent match, lots of action for an opener, and Rey Mysterio, how's retirement treating you, buddy? You've never been busier.
You're right.
You
Uh,
go into the Hall of Fame, you're working, twice a week now on TV. He's on Raw, he's on SmackDown, he's in tag matches, he's still bumping like crazy.
yeah. Uh, Rey Mysterio still doing the thing, and I'm glad that they kept a little continuity with the LWO stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because we've seen this damn kind of shape shift around, trying to figure out a gimmick.
Yep.
Do they come from the crowd? Are they like, what is their deal? Are they rich people? Are they like, I don't know. Like, they're wearing suits like rich people, but are they gangsters? They were all over the place. So now you have the LWO. Uh, it's a throwback. It's got a little nostalgia pop, and
Mm-hmm.
in addition to that, they've got the variations. So they have like the Mexican flag, Puerto Rican flag. So that's just their deal is Latino,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll have to see if it goes somewhere, they go somewhere with it. But they're keeping it together and trying to keep it going. Like, they're keeping the whole thing together and trying to have a little bit of a rivalry between them and the Judgment Day, which is good
Mm-hmm.
because you have
I like that. Do
You
you
already
like the luchador aspect of it? Because you brought up they were trying to find an angle for Legado del Fantasma. Um, they've settled on a gimmick that's a wrestling gimmick. It's not a something else gimmick. Like,
have.
you know, the uh, Latin American aristocracy. Like, that's a non-wrestling gimmick.
Yes.
You know, the LWO kind of being rebranded as luchador style, that's a wrestling gimmick. And it looks like all the guys can pull that off. Cruz Joaquin, Santos, they can all pull off. Even Zelina Vega, she's got some of that luchador style to her when she does have to mix it up. And we'll get to her a little later as well. One of the rare backstage segments that we had here, but yeah, they're being rebranded as wrestling gimmick, which I like. You
Yeah.
know, I think it would be neat to see a real luchador faction, seeing if their styles could compete with other styles that are more common in U.S. pro wrestling. So I like it. I mean, Ray takes a beating in this match early on, and you know winds up getting a hot tag, few hot tags here and there. Um, Finn Balor stops Santos' dive attempt with a clothesline. So I like when the dives don't actually get executed, like neat little wrinkles. But then they go to the first commercial anyway. Like, we're going to commercial whether you hit this dive or not.
Whether it's a reverse dive or the dive works, it's commercial. Okay, so
You're going to commercial. So you know we're so they're setting that up a little bit. Like, you know, Finn Balor and Damian Priest, they're more of the slug it out guys, high impact, but not always high flying guys. So I like that there was that clash there, but it didn't look like anybody was out of place. Um, are you surprised, considering what's happening with Rhea Ripley, considering that the WWE draft is a week away, that they're still playing up so many factions? Because theoretically, it could all end in a week.
I have no idea what the point of the draft is sometimes.
Sure.
I am a little, I don't know. It's a good question because I'll have to see what the draft brings. Because I'm not really sure what they're going to do if they use it to split factions up, or if they keep factions together and they'll shift them around. But
They
if
keep hinting at the announce table, though, that you know, they could be split up at the draft. You know, they keep dropping that so many times that I guess it's supposed to be part of the storyline that these factions could get broken up. On the other hand, some of these factions have some real chemistry with each other. And they look at it, I guess it's another one of those good problem to have things. But
Dom, I'll even talk to that point. We'll have to see by the views we get during the WWE Smackdown draft.
yeah,
Is this just another thing that happens that nobody really seems to care too much about? Like, remember the tournament? They had the tournament, the World Cup tournament. I liked it. It was cool,
yes,
but it wasn't like, wow, this is the WWE thing you have to watch. You got to pay attention now. So I'm curious to see if the draft does interest people that don't watch a lot or they don't watch regularly and they'll come back for the draft, or if we'll be able to tell just by the views. So that's my piece.
yeah. I've never been through a WWE draft. I heard about it happening many years ago. I don't know if it was ever adhered to very strongly in the company. You know, because do you really want to have a star who can only appear on one of your TV programs? You know, I mean, probably not. Uh, but at the same time they're teasing a brand split again with the draft. They're also keeping the men's world title unified rather than split. And they're teasing, at least they did a couple of weeks ago, that the women's world title might be unified. Something down the road with Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. So they're teasing brand splits, but at the same time, they're teasing that Oh no, stuff matters with the entire company, regardless of what TV show they're on. So I don't know. It could be a little confusing. It could be just filler to get us to the draft. Maybe the draft's going to be a nice gimmick. Maybe something actually important will happen on it. Don't know, but I mean that's our wrestling matches for the this episode of SmackDown here. Anything else stand out to you in this match? Any spots? Any nits to pick?
Do you want to talk about any of the backstage stuff? Because I need to check on something real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay, we will do that. I will talk a couple of backstages. Zelina Vega coming out of this. She asked for a match with Rhea Ripley at Backlash. And one of the tie-ins is that Zelina Vega is of Puerto Rican descent, and Backlash will air live from Puerto Rico the first weekend of May. It's I believe the Saturday. And so even though they seem to be what a mismatch. Rhea Ripley, this monster, this fantastic in-ring worker, this physical specimen, against Zelina Vega, who is kind of on the small side. She's short and she has the petite frame, but she's acrobatic, and maybe they can get something out of this match. We have seen Zelina Vega and Rhea Ripley mix it up a bit on the outside of matches with the LWO and Judgment Day being involved in this storyline for the past few weeks. Okay, she gets her spotlight to be in a pay-per-view match. Good for her, and let's give her a chance. Do I expect her to beat Rhea? No, not at all. But maybe it'll be a fun match. They are still playing up Damian Priest and Bad Bunny. He's mocking Bad Bunny. Promoting the next Raw from Chicago post-match here. So Damian Priest gets the pinfall for his team, and then he's mocking Bad Bunny. Woo, they're playing this up. So good. This is a better celebrity use than normal. Like celebrities used to be in the WWF, the old WWF days, not WWE. Celebrities were there just to get eyeballs on the screen. They really weren't part of any of the in-ring stuff. But celebrities nowadays, when they really work, they're guys who can sort of mix it up in the wrestling a bit. Bad Bunny seems to be a guy who likes getting in there and taking some bumps and maybe delivering some shots. So they're keeping this going. Damian Priest mocks Bad Bunny a little bit. They're going to continue this. So that's your Judgment Day backstage vignettes. There's Zelina Vega getting a title shot, and Damian Priest want to get his hands on Bad Bunny again.
I wonder if so it's going to be pretty crazy. I just realized this as you were kind of explaining. They're going to be in Puerto Rico for Backlash.
Yep.
Which is interesting because I don't remember any sort of WWE pay-per-view being in Puerto Rico.
Not in a long time, they've been saying.
Yeah. So they're going to Puerto Rico, and I mean, hopefully the crowd is crazy for it because they're never there. Sometimes, that happens in like the UK sometimes when they go there. They have one show and it's just completely electric. Montreal's another place outside the US they go to that's like completely nuts. So hopefully Puerto Rico, they show up and they're acting crazy, the fans. And maybe that's why they're kind of pushing the LWO right now. Maybe they're trying to get that over in that part of the world. I don't know if it'll work or not. I mean, Rey Mysterio, you could drop him anywhere. He could be in Antarctica and people would freak out. But the other guys, they might be more so hometown heroes because the LWO, they do have the Puerto Rican flags in. So
yeah, Zelina Vega is from Puerto Rico. I think she mentioned in pitching the match to Adam Pearce that she's the only competitor on the active women's roster who's from Puerto Rico. I may have botched her line there or what she was trying to get across, but yeah, this is the place to do it. Zelina Vega getting a title shot in her sort of hometown. Let's see what she can do.
I'm kind of looking forward to it because they usually run a lot of the same cities, a lot of the same venues, and it just change it up. It's kind of I don't want to say throwaway pay-per-view, but it's not going to be one of the big ones. So why don't we do it somewhere interesting? At least you have that aspect to it, and see if you have a different vibe in the arena as a result of the fact that you're in a completely different country. So
Yeah, and that's interesting. It's not supposed to be throwaway, but then on the other hand, the rematch for the tag titles is happening the week before on SmackDown, not at Backlash. Backlash is being saved for a 6-man tag. So, belts on free TV, premium live event gets kind of the 6-man could be messy thing.
right, yeah.
Rhea Ripley title shot with Zelina Vega, but that's more because Zelina Vega is from Puerto Rico, not because she's like the number one contender to the SmackDown Women's title.
Yeah. And if anything, very WWE is to have the hometown person lose in their hometown. I do not know why that is the thing. I've done it so consistently over the years. If there's a hometown hero, they will lose in that town. I don't know what the reason is, but it's so predictable. But hey, Cody Rhodes, I could have sworn was going to win the WWE title as a result of the fact that he's been built as the baby face for this long, and the baby face always just goes over WrestleMania, and they didn't. So who knows? We could have a title change, but I don't see it happening.
So we've got one more storyline that was part of this episode of SmackDown, and it was with dueling recorded vignettes. Do you remember what this was?
No. How about you?
I'll give you a hint. Tick tock.
I do remember this. Sorry. I was like, oh my God, they're still doing the gimmick when I saw it on the screen. Because did he talk about like the car accident spot? Was that also part of it where they had like a big car crash like 4 or 5 months ago was part of this vignette?
Yes, Drew McIntyre was kind of the blow off of the Drew McIntyre Karrion Kross feud. Was yes, Drew just jumping him before a SmackDown episode.
I was watching it with my wife, and she doesn't usually watch. So she's a good neutral party sometimes to understand like what other people think that aren't watching every Friday. And she's like, "What is this? I don't get it." I was like, "We made a TikTok about how this doesn't make any sense. It's not just us." Okay. Like, I don't get it. I was like, okay, cool. I feel justified in making a short and TikTok about this ridiculous gimmick.
Weird vignettes aside, do you think Shinsuke Nakamura and Karrion Kross could have a pretty decent match in the ring once it finally gets there?
It's interesting they had Shinsuke looking pretty serious, like a real fighter in those vignettes. Yeah, Shinsuke is good in the ring and can go. I don't know if his age is going to hamper him. I haven't seen him in a really long time, and I don't know how much better you get from 42 to 45 or whatever. He's up there. Like, let's see here. Shinsuke. But he could be, it could be a good match as a result of the fact, yeah, he's 43. So, I mean, he could be having a good match with Karrion Kross. I know Karrion has wrestled around the world. He's just kind of trapped in this goofy gimmick in the WWE. I don't know if it's his call or what, but it's tough to take him too seriously in this gimmick. So every time he's on the screen, I'm just like making fun of this gimmick. So I just never think like to look at his match and if he's really good and he's just trapped in it.
The WWE seems to have a handful of guys who are better in-ring performers than the gimmicks they're saddled with at the moment.
Right.
Or the storylines they're saddled with at the moment. Cough, LA Knight, cough.
Where did you see? Was there anything with LA Knight on the show?
I don't believe so. Not on this show. No, they may have made mention of it during Xavier Woods' match because LA Knight broke his video game controller.
Right.
Other than that, not really. Maybe maybe a few guys get a week off.
Yeah,
Who
maybe
knows?
he's been working really consistently a lot. He's always on SmackDown, so maybe he gets 1 week off. And
Sure, Rhea and Dominic Mysterio got the week off, even though there was a big angle with the Judgment Day.
Roman's taking. Was there no Heyman either?
That's a good question. I don't think there was a Heyman on this episode, but yeah, Roman Reigns was rumored before WrestleMania that he had some time off coming to him right after WrestleMania, and that just played into the whole Cody Rhodes is going to take the titles from him at WrestleMania. You're like, no, Roman's keeping the titles, and he's still going on vacation for a month.
Right.
How about that?
Right.
How about that? He's keeping the belts, and he's taking some time off.
Yes. Take that. Everybody predicting that Cody Rhodes would win. Just the
Take
swerve.
that, IWC.
IWC. Yeah, I was trying to think. Meltzer specifically, it's not Cornette. Oh, the IWC. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I thought it was a pretty good SmackDown because
I like this. Really entertaining for a SmackDown with very little in the way of titles or really A-list storylines. This was the kind of SmackDown where if you hadn't been following the WWE for a while, you would watch this and be really entertained by the matches.
Yeah, exactly. This wasn't a big storyline thing. And hey, that's what we both seem to kind of like. It's just like, oh, this is a pretty good match.
Yeah, I like it.
An amazing promo or something like that. So any SmackDown that has Gunther going long, it just always seems to elevate the entire show around it. Because you go away and you leave and you say, well, at least you get to see watch Gunther go for 20 or so minutes and watch him magic in the ring that he currently does. So
glad he kept the belt at WrestleMania so we get to see this more on TV.
I know. Right. If he had dropped it, who knows where that IC title would be, who'd be wrestling on the live TV shows, all that stuff. So yeah. Well, Dom, I guess we're kind of moseying on down the road here to the Italian goodbye.
Do we want to do an Italian goodbye? Are there things you want to mention that are not quite on this show here in these 2 hours that we saw Friday?
Well, let's see here. Let's see if we get some TikTok banter here. Some shorts, some small things. So, and I didn't even tell you about this before the show, but I'll just go ahead and say it. There is a list of the top 10 wrestlers from ChatGPT. Have you heard of this, ChatGPT?
I have heard of ChatGPT. It is a middle manager speak. It's a artificial, hyper rational.
Yeah, so this thing is, I was screwing around with it.
Okay.
Because I just was bored one night. It is dumb as hell.
Okay.
It is not what people envision or what people are claiming it is for sure. But there is a top 10 list. Let's see if I could do this without typing into the mic too loudly. Give me a sec. I'll give you the top 10 list. And then that ChatGPT came up with, and you let me know what you think.
Is it all-time pro wrestlers? Is it current pro wrestlers? Is it one promotion versus another? Like, what are our parameters here?
All time, all promotions.
All continents, or just kind of a U.S. wrestling?
It's if you type into ChatGPT, who are the top 10 pro wrestlers ever? And then this is the response. You have The Rock, Ric Flair.
As number one?
It's not necessarily in order. That just gives you 10 of them.
Okay.
The Rock, Ric Flair, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, Triple H, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, John Cena.
Extremely WWE heavy. Extremely, and I say WWE, not WWF, like extremely WWE heavy, like last 20 years.
Mhm.
Okay.
This almost feels like a list that they pulled from WWE.com.
Sure.
And also doesn't list anybody before, like, that did anything before the early 90s. I
Sure.
mean,
Yeah.
maybe Ric Flair. Well, I guess Ric Flair and Andre the Giant. But a lot of these are super modern. And I just wanted to get your take on it because you never know, Dom. We could make a video which incorporates popular topics like ChatGPT.
We could. Chat GPT, I've referred to it as, the ultimate middle manager, the ultimate corporate yes man or yes woman, um, the ultimate do what you're told, kiss up to the boss thing, however it's programmed, that's what it's going to spit back out at you. Um, that seems like a very yes man, middle manager speak, corporate bureaucrat list.
Right. I looked. It was funny because I saw the article pop up, and I was like, I wonder what else it can do if you ask it questions. I mean, it's a top 10 list. It's not good, but it's got some of the guys that would be in the top 10, right? I mean, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Stone Cold, The Rock. Those are four that you'd put on there.
Depends on what your criteria are. It sounds like it's they picked 10 guys who were huge WWE names mostly over the last 20 years with sort of crossovers into other aspects of pop culture.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Basically, people that crossed over into pop culture are kind of part of that list. Like,
But
who's
there's no Gunther on that list, is there?
right? Or you know, Ricky
Bret
the
Hart's there basically for wrestling with shadows, right?
yeah.
Because Bret Hart, you would expect to be on a list as, if you were really just doing best in ring performers, guys who could wrestle, who really look like athletes. Yeah, Bret Hart would be on that kind of a list. I don't know about all the others, but yeah, Bret Hart would be on that kind of list. Shawn Michaels, great. The list of the greatest WD matches of all time, WrestleMania main events of all time, littered with Shawn Michaels. So
I
yeah,
mean,
other than that, I don't know what the criteria are. If you're looking, if the Chat GPT was giving you, here are the names of 10 pro wrestlers that most people would recognize, then
yeah,
yes, those are 10 names that most people would recognize.
yeah. I mean, there's a few people that got left out. You figure a lot of guys from the '80s, Piper, Macho
Mm-hmm.
Man, Piper. I
And
would
those are pop culture crossover people too.
huge. I mean, I feel like for
They
me,
Live as a cult classic movie. Piper did music stuff too. Um,
Macho
and
he was
Macho Man,
inspiring.
snap into a Slim Jim, the marketing. I mean, that was huge during his WCW run.
Yeah, snap into a Slim Jim. If you ask someone, "Oh, snap into a Slim Jim," oh yeah, have you heard that? I think most people probably have heard that commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So he was massive in his when he was alive, and then he was, obviously a great wrestler. Um, yeah, there's a couple guys on there. I mean, that it just seems like they put people that were the most recent. So I'm just trying to think of Chat GPT in general. So I started to drill down a little bit more about
Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, Bill Goldberg, guys who were legitimate athletes professionally or close to professional level, who were also very well known in the pro wrestling genre.
yeah.
Those guys. I mean, has anybody ever been better all around as Kurt Angle? As far as what he could do in a ring, and that he was, probably legitimately a tough guy as well. Olympic champion wrestler.
Yeah, this thing though, I mean, because I was curious after I read the article, so I looked into ChatGPT and I started to ask it questions. It's dumb as hell.
Okay.
It is basically just if you go to Google and you type in the search, and then that's what the answer. It really is pretty similar to that. And then as far as like machine learning or anything like that, I asked it, you know, do you know who the Bonsall Street Bomber is? It's like, no, I don't. And then it's like, I started to ask it about our stuff,
Yeah.
New Jersey Championship Wrestling. Then I gave it a YouTube clip, and it was like, oh, like, and it just completely misunderstood what the Bonsall Street Bomber was. And he said, ChatGPT, like, I gave it a YouTube clip about the Bonsall Street Bomber. It's
Okay.
all it has to do is take the transcript and then make it into an answer. But it said it didn't understand it at all, and it said that the Bonsall Street Bomber was a character played by Freddie Lassie in pro wrestling. Like he'd wear a mask, so it was way off.
Okay.
I was like, that is not what happened.
It's got some learning to do.
Yes, it is not nearly. I would not be afraid of what this thing could do.
I think there's got to be a match down the road: the Bonsall Street Bomber versus ChatGPT.
Which,
a grudge match for respect.
Yeah.
Tick tock, ChatGPT. Tick tock.
Right. There we go. It's gonna happen. Anything else you wanted to talk about before we hop off here, Tom?
I heard something, and this is related to Vince McMahon being back in the fold and perhaps asserting himself creatively. Some of the Bray Wyatt questions that have been going around is that maybe Vince McMahon being back in the fold is terrible for Bray Wyatt, because people maybe back in the office want Bray Wyatt to do the Fiend stuff because that sells merch in the short term. And that perhaps the dispute is that Bray wants to get away from that. But like, no, we want the short-term merch gains. And he's like, I don't want to do that. And maybe the problem with this whole Bray Wyatt storyline is that there's some real tension over the direction of it. And maybe it's not, Bray Wyatt who's behind some of the silliest stuff. Maybe he wants to go in a different direction and he's being prevented of, that's rumor mill stuff, but we can't ignore the fact that Bray Wyatt got such a huge push when he was rumored to be coming back. And then it fell so flat and they bailed on a WrestleMania program. How often do you push a guy to the moon and then just bail on WrestleMania?
What's so interesting about that is they set the match and they said it was going to happen.
Yeah.
But then when it didn't happen, you figured, okay, would it be on SmackDown? And it wasn't on SmackDown or Raw or anything like that. So Bray Wyatt was just erased from everything.
That's the word, erased. They don't even address it. It's just like it never happened.
They just acted like it didn't happen and moved on. And Bobby Lashley won the
Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
He comes out, he raises his WrestleMania moment is like, I won this on Friday, and then he leaves.
Yeah, and now he's into a program with Bronson Reed, which is leading to yet another Bobby Lashley in a triple threat for the U.S. title.
Poor Bobby.
Poor Bray, and maybe poor Bray.
Yeah.
Maybe he's kind of getting screwed over by the office here.
There's an aspect of it where they're telling him to do all this stuff, and maybe he doesn't want to do the Fiend stuff because he was looking like he was going to pivot away from it, then or to do it again. So I don't know. Whoever's in charge, it didn't work, and it's probably a good idea to pull the plug because it wasn't getting over, and they'd given it infinite amount of shots to a point where we were like screaming, like, I hate when this is on the screen. I'm
Yeah,
gonna stop watching. You know.
I mean, we've mentioned the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I mean, I was like this close to having a recurring segment from each SmackDown. Okay, where is the Bray Wyatt Memorial bathroom break?
Oh, we missed that line. No. Damn, that would have been great. Bring it
This
back.
week's SmackDown had no Bray Wyatt Memorial bathroom break. All the matches were good. They didn't go too long with the backstage stuff.
Right. Yeah, no, this was a good SmackDown. All right, Dom, I think we added a lot of junk here at the end. We could turn into shorts and TikToks and maybe strange little
Look
videos.
for us on TikTok as well. The live stream is here on YouTube because, YouTube is where we can put this long form stuff. But look for us maybe branching out onto some of these other popular video platforms, especially with the much shorter form things. So,
We
yeah,
are
like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you think. Disagree with us. Tell us that, we got something wrong, that you have a different take on something. Or tell us that, point out something that really resonated with you. We're John, I like talking to you, but I also like hearing from other people who are watching every now and then. I like getting the feedback. Keeps me sharp.
for sure, like, subscribe, comment, all of those good things. We did this one a little late after SmackDown, but we got it in. So, you got your Don't Bury the Lead, Phil. It's a little late. But,
Yep.
Dom, thanks so much for joining. I appreciate it as always. We're going to keep the ball rolling here. We're going to move into other social media. I wouldn't call them social media, other video streaming platforms. That'll be down the road here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to keep moving into Backlash, which should be interesting in Puerto Rico. I'm looking forward to that. So,
Yep.
thanks so much for joining, Dom, and thanks for listening at home and watching and listening at home. Have a great evening, everyone.